Hello, viewers, and welcome to another edition of the Book Review Vlog. Today, actually, we're going to take kind of a little commercial break from me reviewing Stephen King books. And today we're going to review the book The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. I'll tell you why we took a little commercial break. I'm sure as today is, June 6th, or 7th, excuse me. And as many of you in America know, and hopefully maybe worldwide, the movie The Fault in Our Stars just came out. And I've had this book since Christmas of last year. My brother is a middle school English teacher. And for the last couple of Christmases, he's given me books that are for young adults to read because he knows that I do this site. And that's how I got the Hunger Games. And this year, he gave me the Divergent series, which I haven't read yet. And then he added in this book. And because I knew that I was going to do Stephen King this year, I was like, okay, I won't read it this year, and but I'll read it eventually. And then at the beginning of the week, like a week ago, my husband had heard the audiobook of this, and he said, okay, we have to see this movie this weekend. So I was like, okay, I'll, pull it out and I'll read it myself to know what it's about before we go see the movie. So anyway, that's why I took this teeny little commercial break. So I'm sure some of you are appreciative of that. Anyway, the book focuses on a teenage girl named Hazel Lancaster. Her full name is Hazel Grace Lancaster, and she is 16 years old, and she has cancer. When it was discovered, it began as thyroid cancer, but it had spread to her lungs, so now she is in constant need of an oxygen tank. She carries an oxygen tank during the day, and at night when she sleeps, she's hooked up to a BiPAP machine, because she constantly needs artificial air breathed into her. She cannot breathe her own air, or her lungs cannot take breathing air. So anyway, as the book starts, she's kind of a depressed teen, and her parents realize that, and she's depressed because she's got cancer, and she really doesn't see a reason to live and to go about her day-to-day things because she knows she's gonna die. But her family is like, why don't you start going to this cancer support group that your doctor recommended for you? And at first she's like, I don't want to do that, but she goes to make her parents happy. So she goes to a couple of them, and then she's like, this is stupid. Again, it's just a bunch of people, teenagers mostly, talking about how they have cancer. But on her maybe third visit, she is introduced to this boy named Augustus Waters, and he also has cancer. He has cancer basically of the leg. They say the name of it. I'm not sure, because they say a lot of unfortunately they say a lot of cancer terms in this, and cancer names that unfortunately I wasn't aware of. But he does have cancer of the leg because his leg had to be cut off, so he now has a prosthetic. And Augustus has a friend named Isaac who has cancer of the eyes. And when we initially meet Isaac, he already had one of his eyes operated on and taken out, and so he has a glass eye. And then he had learned that he needed operation on the other eye. So he said, I'm going to be basically blind. And Isaac is maybe 16 or 17 as well. And Augustus is about maybe 17 or 18. And so Augustus and Hazel strike up a friendship right away. And because Augustus is like, I think you're beautiful. And, he's very forward like that. And Hazel's like, no, I'm not beautiful, And then So again, they decide to strike up a friendship, and one of the things that they kind of bond over is this book. Hazel has been constantly reading this fictional book. I don't think it's real. It's called An Imperial Affliction by a man named Peter Van Houten. And in the book, it's about a teenage girl with cancer. And one of the things, and she gives it to Augustus, and Augustus reads it. And one of the things that troubles them both is this book has no real ending. It ends in kind of the middle of a sentence. And both of them understand that this is because the protagonist in this book, or the main character of this An Imperial Affliction, whose name is Anna, has died. So they're like, okay, we understand that she's dead, but what happens to the other characters around her? What happens to Anna's mother? And there's another man in the book called the Dutch Tulip Man. What happens to him? What happens to Anna's pets? Things like that. So what they decide is they start to write to this author, Peter Van Houten, and initially they write him a letter, but that doesn't get sent. And then that doesn't get written back, excuse me. Then Augustus writes an email to Peter Van Houten, and that gets answered back. And so Hazel writes one, and that gets sent back. And in her email, Peter Van Houten says, because Peter Van Houten lives in Amsterdam. And he says, if you were ever being able to go to Amsterdam, I would love to meet you. And so she's all excited. And now she has kind of a reason to live and a reason to get up in the morning and things like that. 'Cause, we have to go to Amsterdam. We have to go to Amsterdam. And of course, they live in, Indiana. So flying to Amsterdam is a little hard, especially because you have cancer. And initially, her parents are like, no, I'm sorry, we can't go. But then Augustus does something really nice, and he uses his, Make-A-Wish Foundation thing. He uses his wish to take Hazel, him, and Hazel's mother to Amsterdam. And so they go, and they end up meeting Peter Van Houten, and I'm not going to tell you that because, again, of the things, but there's some disappointment and some joy, but mainly this book, The Fault in Our Stars, it's not completely about kids with cancer, but it's about trying to find kind of the end of things, because one of the reasons why Hazel, is so drawn to this An Imperial Affliction is because Hazel is worried about her parents, and because she is an only child and she's dying. So she says, what is going to happen to the people around me when I die? How are they going to live on? How are they going to move on when I die? So I think that's one of the subplots and sub kind of themes in this book. I liked it. It was a pretty easy read. It's not, it's not too thick. I cried at the end. I tell you, if you want to, if you are going to read this book, to have Kleenex near you, because I'm not usually someone who cries in books, and if you are, then, you're well warned that you will. I just saw the movie today, and I cried at that. So again, very sad book, sad movie, but it's still a good book, and it was a good movie, so I was pretty satisfied. Anyway, so that's it for that review. I am going back to my Stephen King reviews, and I will do 4 Past Midnight. So, I bid you all farewell, and happy reading.